Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and I have a two-part series of videos to share with you today. The first part, we're going to be doing some watercoloring to create a fun background, and then in the second part I will actually do some coloring with my zigs to color in the little characters that are on this card. So here's the finished card and what it's going to look like. Let me pull this up to the camera here. So as you can see, there's a watercolor background. There's some shimmer and shine to parts of it. And then we have some colored with the zig images that are popped up. And then we have an embossed sentiment here. The stamp set that I used to create this card is from Kindred Stamps, and it's Anne of Green Gables. So if you are a fan of Anne of Green Gables like I am, you'll probably recognize that the redheaded is Anne with an E, and the girl with the black hair is Diana Barry. So this is going to be the first part one of the video series on this card, and I'm just going to be creating this fun background with watercolors. It is so super easy and really fun to do. So let's go ahead and move all this aside and get started. I'm going to be using this palette, and it's a little hard to fit it all in, of the Gansai Tambi watercoloring. And unfortunately, as I'm using these paints, I'm not going to be able to tell you the names of the paints because they're all in Japanese. So I'm just going to call out the number that they're actually numbered. So I will call out the number for you of the particular color that I am using. So in case you want to recreate this later, you'll know. I will also link on my blog the actual set that this watercolor palette comes from. I got mine on Amazon and it was, I think, maybe $25, something like that. Very inexpensive and a very good purchase. I'm so happy with it. So let's go ahead and actually start with our painting. All you're going to need is some type of watercolor brush. This one is the one that I'm using for this. It's a stroke watercolor brush, and I got it at Michael's, and I used a coupon and it was something like $8. So it was really cheap. And I like this flat brush here for the techniques I'm going to share with today. I use a round, small brush like this one when I'm doing a small coloring of characters and such, or plants or flowers or something like that. But for just a big landscape that I'm just going to have some fun with, I'm just going to be using this cheap watercolor brush. So all you'll need is some watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper. I've taped it down, as you can see here, with some blue painter's tape onto a board. You can use a cutting board from your kitchen. You can use anything you like. This is just a brown kind of hard board, and it was $2.95 from Simon Says Stamp, and it's perfect for this. And the reason that I tape it down is simply because even though it's watercolor paper and it's meant to absorb water, you can still get some warping. So by putting this tape down, it will prevent that from happening, or at the very least it will lessen the degree of warping that you get. Another thing is when you're removing the tape, just make sure that you pull the tape up against itself like so. You don't want to kind of pull it sideways or anything like that. You want to pull it straight back. Finally, when you're doing this, make sure that you cut your paper a little bit larger than what you want your ultimate piece to be. As you can see from my finished card here, I have just a smaller rectangle, and I knew the size of that beforehand because I used a rectangle die to cut it out. So I knew what size I needed, and I cut my paper an inch on each side bigger, just so to account for the tape. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is just take my wet brush that's been sitting in a cup of water, and I'm just going to wet my paper. And then I'm going to start with my grass. And I'm going to start with number 53 in this watercolor ink. Now, because of the camera, you're probably not going to be able to see me going back and forth from my paint palette here to my paper. I'm just not able to get it all on frame. But there's nothing magical to what I'm doing over here. I'm just dipping my paintbrush in paint. And now all I'm going to do is kind of create a little landscape where I know my grass is going to be, and above that will be the sky. So I'm just going to do like a S shape, kind of like so. Fill that in a little bit, and then fill in the bottom here. No magic to this. I'm not a painter at all. I'm just doing this with however I feel like doing it, quite frankly. I was just playing around and came up with this card design, to be perfectly honest. So As I've said in other videos, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do a lot of things when it comes to crafting. So I just played around and created what you saw in the final card project. So, you know, hopefully you guys will like it and want to try this on your own. But if not, that's okay too. And I'd love to see what you guys can create if you do decide to give this a try. Okay, so one other thing that you're going to want is a heat gun, and that's just to simply kind of dry your paint rather, up quicker, so it helps your work go faster, but also it helps in layering your colors on too. I kind of wanted the grass to have some light and dark highlights, so that's kind of why I decided to break out the heat gun, and it really does work. So now I'm going to be able to put some different colors on this grass, and again, I'm not doing this quote-unquote professionally, if you will. I don't know how to paint, so I'm just kind of having fun with this and just adding some other colors into it to allow some shading in my project. So now I'm going to dry these darker colors here. And sometimes it helps too to lift your board up and let those watercolors kind of flow wherever they're going to flow. It just gives a nice effect. And it's okay to be dramatic with your colors because remember, you're going to be cutting this down. So now I'm using number 51. This darker green color I forgot to call out, it was number 52. So now I'm using number 51, which is a lighter color than the first, to kind of blend all of these together and just give a fun kind of hillside. And as you can see, you have some lights and darks mixed in, and it's pretty cool. I'm going to go back with my number 53, which was my first color, and just kind of fix this top portion here of the hillside. I kind of messed it up a little bit in adding some of the new colors. Just make sure I have a cup of water here, and just make sure that you wash your brush off in between each color. So we're going to go ahead and dry this again, and then we're going to go forward and do our sky, move on to the sky. So I'm just going to lift the board up and kind of let the ink run to give it that nice, fun, watercolored look. Because when the droplets kind of drip and move about, it just really gives a fun look, I think. So I'm going to get this bottom all dry here. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and do our sky. So I'm going to make sure my brush is nice and clean in this water here. And I'm going to now use number 61. Number 61 is a very light blue, as you'll see when I put it on my paper here. It might not even show up very well on the camera, but hopefully it's showing up a little bit so you can see it. And I'm just going to coat the whole sky with this color first. I'm going to come down here and run it right up next to the start of my grass. And as you can see, this brush is really good for just creating this kind of swooshy or swoopy look to the sky. I'm just kind of going in a sideways S shape or a squiggle line. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and dry this with my heat gun because I'm going to be adding some darker blue just to kind of give the sky some dimension and some shape. And then we're going to add some fun splatters, and then we will be done with this part one of the video. And in the second part, I will be coloring the Anne and Diana. Actually, for the video, I'm going to color Gilbert and Diana. So if you know anything about Anne of Green Gables, you know exactly who I'm talking about. If not, just pretend it's a boy and girl. All right, so now I'm going to be using number 63 from the watercolor set, and I'm just kind of blotting it down in random places. No magic to this, just blotting it down wherever I feel like it. All right, and now I'm going to dry it. And then I'm going to go back to my first color, which was number 61, and I'm going to use the number 61 to kind of blend these darker colors together. And it just creates this super fun effect. So as you can see now, my sky has streaks of that darker blue color mixed in with the light, kind of making it look like a real sky. I'm going to go back to the number 63 and add just a few more swoops of the dark color. And I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to go with my lighter color one more time. And then this scene will be complete, in my opinion. And again, please know, I am not in any way trying to suggest that I know what I am doing in the least bit. This is just me playing around and having fun making cards and using products that I love, and then coming and showing you guys and hoping that you love it and want to give it a try. So here we go with just mixing in some of the original number 61 again, and I'm going to do the same thing after I clean my brush off with number 63, which is the darker color. Just adding a few more swoops, and I'm going to dry it. And now I'm done. Now, the reason why I'm drying it now instead of just letting it dry on its own is because I want to go and add some fun little splatters of paint just to make the scene really fun and kind of pop. So I'm going to let this dry. By using my heat gun, I can speed up that process, so I'm able to go ahead and do the splatters now, so the base of the project won't be all wet and mess up the splatter technique. By mess up, I simply mean if there's too much water on your paper when you're doing the splatter technique, it'll just mix with what's on your paper and the splatters won't really stand out. Let me bring the original card over so you can see what I'm talking about. So as you can see, here's the grass, and then here's the sky at the top, and then I'm going to tilt the card and you can see some shimmers there. And I'm going to show you how I did that. The way that I did that is I'm just taking, this is a very cheap, it's a Craft Smart number 7 if you need to know. I mean, it came in a package of cheap paintbrushes. It's nothing, I promise. Costs like $1 for the whole set. And I'm going to be using number 95 from this paint set, the Gansai Tambi paint set. And it is a silvery color. So I'm getting it nice and wet. This is a small paintbrush, so I kind of have to go back and forth for a minute. And then I'm going to take this small brush and flick it against my finger and get some silver splotches here on this paper. I'm going to go in for one more spritz here. And then I'm going to clean off this brush. I'm going to take my big palette here of paints away, and I'm going to use, and I don't know how to pronounce what these are called. I think it's Karataki, but this is the packaging that they come in, and it's called Pearl Colors. And again, it's in Japanese, so I don't know the colors, but I'm going to be using this blue pearl color, the green pearl color, and this pink one at the end. And again, I will have links to all of these products on my blog, so you can check them out if you're interested. These are very pigmented colors of paint, so you really need to get it nice and wet, which I'm doing here, as you can see. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do little flicks of the blue. I just think that's so pretty. And I'm not doing too much, just so there's a little bit of fun sparkle throughout this project. And now I'm going to do a little bit of the green, get it nice and wet. And again, make sure you clean your paintbrush off really good in between. And I'm going to kind of keep the greens to the bottom a little bit of the grass. So there was the green, and now I'm going to do the pink. So I'm going to get it nice and wet, and then I'm just going to flick it just to get a little bit of pink. And then as you can see from the finished card, this is what it's going to look like when it's dry. Now I'm just going to let it dry. I'm not going to take the hot gun or the heat gun to the panel now. I'm just going to let it dry on its own. And then as you can see here, when you turn it, you just have some really pretty effects to that background. Okay guys, so again, this is the final card. This is the end of part 1, where I have created this background here for you guys with the grass at the bottom and the pretty sky at the top, using the Gansai Tambi watercolor palette as well as some of these pearl colors. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and please check in for part 2, which will be posted at the same time this video is posted, so they'll be posted together. And you can see how I colored Anne and Gilbert. So thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.